Set of restrooms. Everything's been destroyed. Oh, look at that. It's not super common in Mexico to see used needles. Oh. Oh. Yeah, this is stinky. Oh. Oh yeah. Oh my. Look back here. I'm a glutton for punishment, aren't I? Ugh. Yeah. Oh man. The smell is overpowering. Ugh. Ugh. But you can see this fence here extends basically all the way along what looks like a park that would have been open in the past that ran along the Rio Grande. You can kind of see what that park looks like here. And this is the bridge that takes you down into central Ciudad Acuña. So let's take a drive along this park along the river. I think we're gonna see something like what we're seeing in a fair amount of Texas towns, and that's former public space that has been partitioned off to stop people from crossing, or not necessarily to stop them from crossing, but to make them easy to catch once they get across, because there's not a good way through this fence. And the trees on the far side of this mowed lawn, that's the start of the Rio Grande. That's the river right there. And then you can even see some of the bollard style fencing is stacked up there, potentially for deployment in the future, I guess. You can see some of it has been built right here. So this must have been such a major crossing point. And Ciudad Acuña on the other side isn't a small town, and it's pretty easy to get to. So this must have been similar to what they've been dealing with in Eagle Pass, which is about 60-ish miles down the road. These fence panels don't seem enormously sturdy. if I had an angle grinder, I could get through these pretty quick. It looks like they got pried out of the way maybe right here. See a chain holding this together. And then this got welded in place to make that a little bit more difficult to get through. Oh yeah. You can see some of these pry marks. I wonder if that has anything to do with this big pile of rebar. This is pry bars that people have used maybe in the past. Alright, so here at the end of this stretch of the wall, and you can see right through the fence there is the Rio Grande. This is the end of this kind of municipal park area, but you know, you can see right here, looks like there's been some foot traffic. So end of wall and bip right over the river. Of course, you can see that is quite the thicket back in here. You know, and I mean, that'd be a spot for folks to hang out. That'd be tough to spot anybody or even to chase anyone down back in there. Bollard style wall also ends right there as that bamboo gets started. So it's just impossible to fully seal the border. Like, you're just going to have some amount of porosity, and that's where I guess your human patrol element kicks in. So popped over to the other side of the border crossing main road that runs through Del Rio, and we've got a similar park set up down here with the fencing up. And if you can see here to the left, we've got Texas National Guard. I popped over to say hi to them real fast, and he said, I can't answer any questions. I can point you towards our public information officer. And I was like, no. No, those people are never helpful. So I'm going to poke around here and see what else I can find, but I didn't realize that Texas National Guard are still deployed down here. I know that Governor Greg Abbott had sent them down last year in order to help secure the border because CBP was getting overwhelmed by the numbers that were coming across. And so the National Guard had been instrumental in helping keep those numbers down. So, just had a very, very interesting conversation with a gentleman who clued me in on a whole lot of what's happening. So, during the Bush administration, which this is the Bush wall that we're looking at, this all used to be private property along here. These were 48-acre chunks of land that would run from the road here down to the river, and long and narrow lots. And they all got eminent domained during the Bush administration in order to kind of clear that area out because it was such a common crossing point at that point. And actually, the most common crossing point is right there through the fence. That's the spot where the river is really shallow and folks can just walk across in a couple of feet of water. So Texas National Guard is actually stationed right there by the river, and that's where they're apprehending the folks who are coming across, and then letting CBP know what's going on so that they can swing down and make their apprehension and get them off into processing. So things have been pretty quiet down here in terms of the number of migrants. There's still some. It sounds like there were a couple of families today that crossed, and yeah, there's a lot more, but I'm gonna park here and walk across over to Acuña, and we can take a look at what the river looks like as I'm walking over it and see what we can see. So pretty much anytime you're crossing the border over a bridge, there's going to be a toll. And so these are the toll stations here. I'm going to the walk-up toll station because I'm just going to walk across the bridge and then walk back. So usually it's something like $1. Let's show the... Oh, here we go. Okay, 75 cents, quarters only. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. Okay. So I have the ability to get some quarters, pop it in, and then off I go. Alright, getting maybe halfway across the bridge. I'm not to the Rio Grande yet, but you can see here, got that parkland, and then some National Guard tents that are set up. Straight ahead here is where we've got the Rio Grande, and then bridge slopes right down into Mexican Customs and Border Patrol there. Okay, we are here at the Rio Grande. As you can see, this portion's pretty shallow and pretty easy to get up to on the Mexican side. So this upriver side of the bridge is not apparently where the main crossing is. It's on the other side, the downriver side, where apparently there's a spot where it's just super easy to get through. Just a couple of feet of water. Looks like it gets a little bit deep and maybe a little bit rapid right there. So unless you're in the mood for a swim, maybe not the best place to cross. So that's a first. So I actually had to go through passport control here in Acuña and get stamped into the country. So I told them I'm just coming over for an hour or two, eat some tacos, walk around a little, and then head back. So I need to check back in on my way through to get stamped out of the country. So very interesting. Have not had to do that anywhere else along the border. In fact, we were laughing because I hadn't gotten any other stamps in my passport from Mexico, so I finally have a Mexican stamp in my passport. I'm gonna try and get down closer to the river here. The border crossing guy also didn't want to speak English. So on the downriver side from the bridge, there's an ecological park in Acuña. And so I've walked down here and just taking a look around. Looks like we might have some walkways to be able to get up to where the river's at. I do see that the Acuña police, the Policía Municipal, appear to be patrolling. So I'm curious to know if that's part of this effort to keep folks from crossing over into the US. But I think we've got the river right up ahead of us. So let's pop up there and see what we can find. So getting right down here to the river, and we've got some signs of migrants camping out here. Some mattresses, some clothing, a fair amount of kind of discarded water bottles and whatnot. I've got some locals right here that I'm not keen to get on camera. They're chilling in the heat. You can see blankets hung up. And then there's lots of trash. And then down here we have the river. So there's the bridge to get back across. And yeah, this is pretty placid. Oh yeah. I hear people playing in the water. But that's the US right there. So, I mean, real easy to wade across. And then I guess I understand that we've got Texas National Guard right there on the other side that are waiting to pick folks up that make the crossing. So I'm guessing, I don't see them right down here at the water. I'm guessing they're going to be kind of up on this embankment area. The bridge that crosses here goes quite a ways. I mean, this length crossing the actual river times another maybe 3 or 4 before it widens up into the Border Patrol section. So there's plenty of space for the Texas National Guard and CBP to be patrolling up in between here and there. Straight ahead, right there on the bank of the river, I see a CBP pickup. So I'm gonna hike around and see if I can get to that spot. That's probably the crossing point that sounds like most people are heading across at. Also, passing the folks a little bit earlier, I realized that they are probably migrants, actually. Just hanging out. Right. Well, you can just see the loads of trash brought down here. Lots of clothing, bottles. Okay. So it's close to 100 degrees. So on some level, it may be a little bit difficult to figure out if people are just swimming for pleasure or crossing the river. But we got a family up there. I'm going to walk up that far and see what we can see. Okay, so down here, got a nice pleasant breeze going. But this is likely where the crossings are happening, because we've got a boat ramp that goes right down to the water right there. The family that's off to my left are not immigrants. They're here with their vehicle and to swim around, so I'm making sure not to catch them on camera. But yeah, you can see right on the other side there's CBPs waiting right there, be able to snag folks as they're crossing. But from what I was told, there's not that many folks that are coming these days, with folks mostly getting plucked off of the trains and out of buses and whatnot, and getting shipped back into central and southern Mexico. So a bit of a respite for the folks up here. It's been pretty busy for them from all accounts for a few years, and so now they're getting a break with not that many folks crossing. So one thing that's striking me is that there's not huge rolls of concertina wire fences, at least that are visible, across the way. I guess until you get back a ways from the river. So, relatively less aggressively defended. And here's our CBP officer sitting across the way. But in Eagle Pass, you'd see fencing, you'd see wire, you'd see all kinds of disruptive stuff to stop people from getting across, and it runs miles and miles up the river from the international bridges, from hikes that I've done in the past. I had one where I was working my way upstream from the Eagle Pass Bridge, and gosh, I had probably gone a few miles before the Guardia Nacional came out of the woods with weapons at the ready and wanted to know what I was doing that far off the beaten path. I was like, oh, I'm a journalist. I'm working on a story on the migrants. And so then they're like, oh, you come with us. And so they took me back to their headquarters area, back in the woods, and had to talk to their sergeant in charge. And I told him what I was up to. And he said, oh, okay, you follow me. And I was like, oh, okay. He goes, no, you come with me. And so he starts walking off into the woods. And I'm like, oh, is this where somebody disappears and doesn't show back up again? But without a whole lot of seeming choice, I decided to go with him. And he was intent on showing me the most common crossing points that far up the river. And he answered a bunch of questions and stuff for me. So that was really nice of him. And then after that, kind of got me back out to where I'd started and wished me the best of luck, and had a long walk back into town. But so I've seen quite a bit of what's going on down at Eagle Pass, and can compare it with what I'm seeing here. Here at the entrance to the archaeological, or the park area here, and you can see this is where folks have been living. Oof. Smells powerfully of urine and poop. Abandoned buildings are an easy spot to be able to jump in and get some shelter. Set of restrooms. Everything's been destroyed. Oh, look at that. It's not super common in Mexico to see used needles. Oh. Oh. Yeah, this is stinky. Ugh. Oh yeah. Oh my. Look at back here. I'm a glutton for punishment, aren't I? Ugh. Yeah. Oh man. The smell is overpowering. Ugh. Ugh. Yeah. Yeah. Obvious spot where people have been hiding out, waiting. I mean, we've got years of trash of migrants, probably, I would guess, in the tens, maybe hundreds of thousands, coming through the area. This is the closest shelter to where the easy spot to cross over the Rio Grande is. So this is, I guess, a makes sense spot to hole up for a bit, but man, the smell is powerful. Okay, as weird as it sounds to maybe think about going and getting some food, I'd like to find some good tacos before I leave. Ooh, another one. Let's see what we got. A bed. This isn't quite so bad smelling. No, this wasn't, in any case, being used for porta potty. Even the bathroom area doesn't smell too bad, but definitely being used to live in. Oh wow. Ooh. A little leery about walking back here. A needle through the shoe. Suppose you have a advanced warning system. Bars on the windows. An advanced warning system having a bunch of trash in your hallway. A set of vertebra? Yikes. Oh yeah, that's a skull. Maybe a dead dog or something. Crazy. Alright, let's get out of here. Advanced warning because you hear somebody crunching along all the trash on the way back to where you're hanging out. Alright, got to chatting with a pleasant chap who pointed me towards what are apparently the best tacos in this part of town. The Tacos Tapatio, up here a few blocks. So, I am hoping that, oh yeah, oh, a breeze and shade. This poor Alaskan gonna have to toughen up in the southern sun here. It's only the middle of June. We got a couple of months of the hottest weather straight ahead. Part of it's this PPE, you know, wearing the wide-brimmed hat, got the sleeves on, all these ways to try and keep the sun off you, and it just traps more heat. All right. Dust mine eyes deceive me. Jesse's Curios. Oh my. Look at this. Yay. I found my store. My tienda. Okay, we are on Tourist Row here. Hoping to find this taco shop. Should be close. I got a good feeling. Ooh, much heat, much sweating later. Having walked around a few different blocks, we made it. El Tapatio. Let's hop in and see what we got here. All the way down and find out that it's closed. Of course. So I think maybe rather than getting a taco, I will buy some water and get back across the border. So walking back to the border, wound up running into a guy named Ruben. He's from Ciudad Obregón, one of the cities in Sonora, and he has a wife and 2 kids in California, in the Los Angeles area, and he was caught and deported, and now he's here and trying to figure out a way to get back over to the US so that he can head back to his family. He's spending time basically right now trying to clean people's windshields to make enough money to stay alive until he can figure out getting back across the river and into the US and making his way west. So, all kinds of folks. Everybody seems pretty willing to talk too, especially when you're in Mexico, and just stop and say hi, and everybody's happy to tell you their story. But we're coming up here on the border crossing, so I got to shut this off. We'll get across, and then I'll be able to film from the other side of the bridge crossing over and show where we were able to walk down to, but we can see it from kind of an aerial view. So on some level, I'm not sure how that made a lot of sense, because I went back in and got stamped out of the country, but then you have to walk back out into the city and essentially walk all the way around the big security complex area, border entry area, to get to where you would cross back over into the US. But, you know, hypothetically, I could just walk into Mexico like I do in any other border, and I wouldn't. I've already been stamped out of the country, so on some level, they don't know where I'm at. So I'm confused why I had to stamp into the country and then go through this rigmarole. It's not like I could cross over to where I can go get in line to pass back into the US without having to go back out into the city. Anyway, tally-ho. So walking back around to where I would enter the gate to go back in the US, and I realized I have not gotten the drone up in the air. So I want to do that here in the ecological park, but as I'm walking, I realize this. Okay, so what we've got is an electric line that basically descends down and then runs along the ground here over to this area where the migrants have been camping out. And then we got a bunch of wires and stuff, a light, charger. Oh, look at this. And they've got it all wired together. Huh. That's hilarious. Okay, let's pick a spot that's kind of out of the way. And ideally kind of in the shade. This actually looks good right here. And we'll pop Queen Bee up into the air. Okay. Okay. I don't want to draw too much attention here. I think we're going to go up an initial 100 feet and see what we got.
Max altitude reached.
Okay. I'm in Mexico and I'm not signed in, so it's only going to let me go up 100 feet. Okay, so what we're looking at here
updated.
Is out towards the Rio Grande. So panning back west, there's the International Bridge. And then we've got all of the immigration stuff for on the Mexican side. And then this is Ciudad Acuña, which has a relatively welcoming feel. I was surprised and impressed. I liked it. And then back around, and here's our park. And the Rio Grande. Okay. Just basic view. We get Queen Bee out of the air and get back across the border. Alright, on the bridge. And looking out over the Rio Grande. We were kind of around the bend there as it continues forward a ways. Or we were popping down to the riverside. Okay, and on to the U.S. Tally-ho. Okay, I found a spot with AC that's open. So it's called LHM. That's seafood. So this is mariscos, shrimp. So I got the mariscos diablas. So it should be nice and spicy. And wound up getting some salsas, the green, verde, y rojo, y limones, or the limes, and then some chips. So I'm going to munch on these until tacos get here, and then we'll see what that looks like. Okay, this is a fancier restaurant, and so I've got some sopa, some soup, but also wanted to show the impressive number of hot sauces that are available. Look at this, boom, boom. Got salsa ketchup. We've got habanero roja, verde. I mean, look at this. Plus these. So this salsa right here is not super spicy, but it is loaded with cilantro, and the flavor is absolutely amazing. Well, I mean, this is like buy and take home if it's possible, which I'm sure it's not. So enjoy and regret having to leave. Okay, let's try the soup. I've got some mystery meat, maybe some chicken and some pork. No. their seafoods. Scallops, and then something else. The broth is good. Okay. On pause until my tacos camarones del diablo. Okay. I've been eating the red sauce. It's really hot. But also the tacos arrived. Those look amazing. So I'm going to dig in. Ooh. Yeah, we're gonna use this green. This stuff is so good. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, that's hot. Oh, that's really hot. All right. Back in there, avocado. Too hot. I gotta let that cool down for a second. So, tacos consist of some avocado, some camarones, or shrimp. And then we've got some diced tomatoes and diced up onions. Tomatoes are slightly overcooked. Onions are still a bit crunchy, which is apropos for this dish. Okay, overall, tacos, not as good as soup. That soup was awesome. So, I think green sauce and soup, those are the thumbs up here at LHM. I'm gonna finish eating and then we'll pop back across the border. Okay, I caved and sprang for a full bowl of the sopa de mariscos. So we have lots of different things in here, including something tentacled. Look at this. Tentacles. We've got shrimp. We've got crab pieces. Oh yeah, scallops. All kinds of stuff. It's gonna be good. Whoa. Happy Jesse. Whoa.